Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be diving into another Neville Goddard lecture. This one's titled Walk by Faith. It has a wonderful message and one I'd like to share with you guys. So I'll go through, I'll paraphrase the lecture, and we'll talk about it as we go. Now in this lecture, Neville focuses on the idea that the Bible is a unique book that speaks directly to the imagination, which is a spiritual sense. The Bible is not a single book, but a library of 66 separate books. He says that the Bible should be read as if the soul's depth is speaking to the surface of the mind. This means that the ineffable imagination is speaking to the human imagination, not to the immediate understanding or reasoning mind. He then references Paul's second letter to Corinthians, in which he says that we should walk by faith and not by sight. When we walk by sight, we know our way by objects that the eye sees. But Paul tells us to order our life by objects seen only in the imagination. In other words, when you know where you want to go and what you want to be, you are told not to rearrange your physical structure, but to walk by faith, viewing only the rearranged structure of your mind. And if you will remain faithful to that state of consciousness, what is seen only in your imagination will objectify itself in your world. Neville gives an example of his brother, and you've probably come across this example in some of his other lectures and books. He gives the example of his brother Victor, who wanted to be a successful businessman. Victor knew how to use his imagination and to remain faithful to the ideal in his mind in which he created. He imagined and rearranged the name of the building in his mind's eye for 2 years, visualizing that the building belonged to his family instead of someone else. For 2 years, every time he walked by this building, he imagined the Goddard name up on the marquee. Now he did this for 2 years, and then without warning and without any more money than he had when he started imagining, a casual acquaintance approached him and purchased the building for the family without collateral for $50,000. In that building, the Goddard family started a business and then later sold that building for $850,000. I know that may sound unbelievable, but go ahead and listen to the lecture. Read how honestly and sincere Neville writes and speaks, and open your mind and heart up to extraordinary situations and circumstances that can open up and bring to you exactly what you desire and hold within your conviction of your imagination. He says you have the power to either live by faith or by sight. If you live by sight, accepting everything that happens to you, you remain an automaton, unable to change the conditions and events in your world. Only as you begin to live by faith will your life change. Paul tells us that no matter what he has done or did not do, he puts it behind him and stretches forward towards what lies ahead. Paul's ideal was to be called to the highest point of God, and Neville says, I hope this is your ideal too, but perhaps it's not. Maybe other things are pressing upon you, such as the need for money. If so, make that your objective, but use the same technique. He elaborates further, saying, put the past behind you. Do not look back and become like Lot's wife, who turned into a pillar of salt, which is a preservative. For you always put what you want to preserve in brine. If you turn back and dwell upon the state you want to leave behind, you have placed it in the brine and will become it once more. But if you will turn your back upon the past, regardless of what you have or have not done, and stretch forward to what you want to be or do, and remain faithful to your desire, nothing can stop you from achieving it. You will become the man you assume you are if you persist in the assumption that you already are there. Now, how easily can we all relate to this? We've all had the experience of trying to let go or leave something behind that no longer serves us. But though we say this with our words, our mental arrangement of mind maintains that old orientation, and we find ourselves facing that obstacle or problem again down the road. It is only when we turn our back on the past and, as he says, stretch forward to what you want to be or do, can we transform into a new desired state. He says if you do this, nothing can stop you from achieving it. He says that you are the operant power of your imagination. You can tell where you are going and what you are doing by watching your thoughts. If certain events in your past are unlovely and you remember them, you are ordering their experience. But if you turn your back on the past and stretch forward towards your ideal future, you will order your inner conversations aright and become what you behold. This truth will never be disproved, for you are the operant power and must live by it. He says if you order your inner conversations aright, right now their truth will happen in the simplest way. He says that you could hear this message over and over again, but until you bring it into your own experience, through your own power, you will not fully believe or understand it. You must walk by faith, and your faith to your ideal will be fulfilled. Then you will come to know the power in which you hold. Neville then explains that faith is the assurance of things hoped for, and the conviction of things not seen. That's exactly what his brother did, and that's what we must do also. He says that man is all imagination, and that God and man differ only in degree of imagination's intensity. He stresses that it is up to you to live by faith or by sight, and that if we live by sight, we remain automatons, and we are unable to change the conditions of our world. Only as you begin to live by faith will your life change. Hear that again. Only as you begin to live by faith to the unseen will your life change. Now, to close the lecture, Neville encourages us to put the past behind us and to focus on what lies ahead, whether it be a high calling towards God, like Paul, or for a more tangible desire, like money. He says that if we turn our backs on the past and remain faithful to our desires, nothing can stop us from bringing it into our lives. So let's learn to walk by faith. Let us walk in the state we desire and know with certainty that we are on our path of least resistance and our desired state will be achieved. Now, this lecture was loaded, and I suggest you sit in silence for a few minutes today to reflect on what was shared. I want you to know that I believe in you, and I believe you can transform yourself and everything in your world, and I am here to help. I'm going to be putting out many more videos exploring Neville's lectures, as well as my own messages and insights on spiritual development and transformation, so I hope you join me on those future videos. Thanks so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.